So we all struggle with sin, and in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about that struggle and how even though we struggle with sin, it's not over and it's not hopeless, and we don't have to condemn ourselves for it. So as I said, sin is something we all struggle with, and some of us struggle with a certain sin more than we struggle with another sin, such as some of us struggle with anger. I struggle with that a lot. Some of us struggle with impatience. I struggle with that a lot. Some of us struggle with doubt. I struggle with that a lot too. As you can see, I struggle with a lot of sins, but because of the Holy Spirit that is freely given to anyone who accepts Him, we have the ability to resist that sin and not succumb to it. But I want to talk to you guys about something further. What about if we do succumb to it? What if we do give in to that temptation that is just so powerful and so addicting? What if we do give in to it? Is it over? Are we beyond forgiveness? Or are we just condemned forever? And I am living proof that not at all. See, sin has a weird form of addiction. Let me give you one of many examples in the Bible. Paul said that his will wanted to obey Christ, but his body, his flesh, wanted to do the opposite, and he often struggled with it, and he said himself that he often gave in to that temptation, but he also said that thanks be to Christ, that he would not be condemned for those sins. We are not condemned for our sins once we accept Christ, whether we succumb to them or whether we resist the temptation. There is not a day that goes by that I don't succumb to one sin or another, and more often than not, it's many sins. But if I simply ask for forgiveness, it is granted to me quicker than I can even comprehend. As soon as we ask for it, it's given to us. And don't get me wrong, guilt over the sins you commit is good. That means the Holy Spirit is with you and He's showing you that what you're doing is wrong and teaching you to turn away from it. But we shouldn't condemn ourselves and make ourselves out to be a lost cause, which I know for a fact I often tend to do, and I'm sure that many others do. Christ understands just how powerful that temptation is. He Himself was tempted. He knows even more than we do just how strong and how compelling that temptation is, and how easy it is to succumb to it. But because He didn't, not only do we have the power to not succumb to it, but when we do, He is our mediator. He's the one who goes before God and presents our case and makes us innocent before God and redeems us. I know that after I realize the depth of what I've done and the sins I've committed, I feel just absolutely filthy and worthless, and sometimes I feel that I don't even deserve to live anymore because of the depth of what I've done against God. And sometimes that just gets so overwhelming that I don't know what to do. It makes me just feel like giving up, and sometimes even makes me suicidal because of the depth of what I've done against God. But you know what? Thanks be to God that He will not leave us in that hellish darkness forever. He will not condemn us for our sins. He will remind us of who we are and that we are simply human beings who fall into sinning from time to time, even when we're Christians. And He will not give up on us. He will remind us that we are redeemed, we are loved, and He will not give up on us any sooner than He stops being God, which of course is never. And you know what the worst sin I ever committed was? For the first 13 years of my life, I hated God. I hated Jesus because of something that happened that I didn't even bother to try and ask God why it happened, why He may have allowed it. I simply came up with my own selfish conclusions, and yet here I am, redeemed and a child of God. And that forgiveness, that grace, that love is not beyond you any more than it was me. I deserve to be in hell right now, and yet here I am. So just keep that in mind. But whenever I'm filled with regret and tempted to give up, I'm always reminded that I myself am the righteousness of God. I am the light of the world. the light and salt of the world and the apple of God's eye, and so are you. Don't consider yourself a lost cause just because you give in to temptation or might be stuck in habitual sin. God will not leave or forsake you. I love you guys all so much, and I hope this gives you hope and hopefully someone to relate to. And if you can't relate to me, know that God can relate to you. And I hope that if you haven't turned to Him, I pray that you do. But even if you haven't turned to Him, even if you're not a Christian, I hope you get something out of this. And I love you all so much, and God bless, guys, and I will see you in the next one.